Welcome to the Soulfire Podcast, where every day we talk about real life, real shit, real raw. On this show, you can expect us to dive deep into topics like marriage, parenting, money, business, feeling like you want to give up, fighting for yourself, just straight soul healing. This podcast is all about life. Hey there, it's Power Coach Alicia here, your source of fun, funny, exciting, entertaining, and educational life coaching, transformational speaking, and soul healing. We're talking about setting your soul on fire. I specialize in helping women put themselves first without feeling guilty, getting out of their own way, and finding themselves again. No fluff, no hand-holding, no bullshit here, just love, light, and peace as we journey through this thing called life. So there was this conversation that was being had the other day, more around me than me being actively part of it. I, interjected a couple of things along the way, but I really didn't say a lot as it pertained to the conversation because I had a lot to say and I wanted to bring it in. I didn't feel like the environment was right. We were actually at a game and focused on something else, but I also really wanted to bring it to the podcast. And what the conversation was about was marriages and a marriage dynamic / relationship dynamics. And, one person was talking about a relationship that is extremely toxic. They're always talking about divorcing and then they never divorce. And it's a really bad relationship. They're, hitting each other. It's emotionally abusive. It's physically abusive. And yeah, that's a shitty relationship, right? And then the next relationship is like, oh, we've never been in a fight. We've never yelled at each other. We've never raised our voices at each other. Like, sure, we have some issues, but whatever. We just, we get irritated or frustrated with each other, but we've never yelled. And then you've got my dynamic where we've had I feel like we've had most of the spectrum of a relationship, like A to Z. After 26 years, I feel like there's a lot of dynamics that have been part of my relationship. And what I was actually thinking of in the moment was, why do people define a relationship as bad? Because they get in arguments. What? Like, who decided that? I guess I'm on this really big, where did this come from trip in the journey of the soul for season 2. Because I know I've been saying that a lot in my episodes. Like, where did this come from? When did it happen? Who decided this? It's the same thing. Who decided? Where was it ingrained in us that when you get in an argument with, your significant other, and one of you, usually in my relationship, usually me, is more passionate, speaks louder. Like, for me to record a podcast, like right now, I'm talking extremely loud in the space that I'm in. And when I get passionate and I'm passionate about a subject, I do talk loud. So most people would be like, why are you yelling? Are you mad? No, I'm extremely passionate right now, right? But when I'm mad, the elevation goes up. So when I'm passionate, I'm feeling direct, I'm feeling assertive, and I want to be clear, I usually speak in this loud of a tone, which you're not in the room with me, so you might not be able to tell. When I'm pissed off, I will generally elevate higher to yelling. But I've worked really hard to have my passionate level be my top. And then even if I'm extremely pissed, it's either passionate at this or lower because of what it does to my insides, my literal physical being and how it affects me. It really, really, really impacts me really bad when I go above my passionate level. So I do my best not to do that because of how it affects me. So with this being said, it's like, when did we define that arguments and people just not seeing eye to eye makes that a bad relationship? And when did we define that, oh, we've never been in a fight as a good relationship? I've never understood this. This has been a hot topic for me for fucking years. I've never understood how you can define that. Because listen, I'm not saying what's right or what's wrong. I'm saying my perspective and what I believe to be true. You take what you like, leave what you don't. It doesn't matter, right? What you believe to be true for you is not for me to convince you of. I'm just giving you food for thought. And like I said, you can do with it what you will, because it's not going to change my perspective of my experiences of all of the different dynamics. So I've watched my mom be beat by my dad when I was, a young kid growing up, all the way until I think 9 or 10 years old when he finally stopped. Might have been 8 or 9 when he finally stopped doing that. And I watched that dynamic. I watched the destruction of what it did to her. But I also watched how close they were, how much love was there, actual love was there, and the best of friends that they were and became after he beat the fuck out of her all the time and all the shit. I want to say this because I think it's important. A lot of times people will say, oh my God, they're abusive and da-da-da, and they're such a horrible person. But generally, in an abusive relationship, the person who is abusing, the person who, has had, issues and there's something going on, and usually there's something going on with that person that they need to discover so they aren't so angry, or that they need to acknowledge and face up to instead of avoid so they aren't so angry. And usually it has nothing to do with the person they're abusing. They're taking it out on that person because they're the closest person to them. Well, the person who is getting abused has also had a journey in their life where they've had a lot of different types of abuse and they've always accepted it. And that's how you get these two people who are together and stay together. So everybody wants to just blame the abuser. And I go, well, if the person who was being abused did their work, right? If they released what had happened to them in the past and they created their standards and set their boundaries for themselves as they were growing through those things, then this abuser would have never been on the same frequency to be with them. Now, this is not cut and dry. There's, like I always say, there's an exception to everything. But the truth is you have to be on the same frequency with other people's circumstances and things for you to draw those things into your life. You have to be. Now, do not misunderstand what I'm saying that the person who is being abused deserves it. That is not what I'm saying. They absolutely do not deserve it. What I am saying is most times we choose avoidance as a way to, or we choose avoidance because we believe that we're healing it by not paying attention to it. And the truth is avoidance leads to a situation where everything is way more amplified once that thing that you've been avoiding can no longer be avoided. And so in this dynamic that I'm talking about right now, it manifests in an abusive relationship because the person who's being abused has always avoided the abuse in the past. They've been taught to move forward in spite of, instead of release and move through, grow through, right? So that's what creates that dynamic in a relationship, all right? In that relationship, or one of the things that creates that dynamic in that type of relationship. My point in bringing this up is because people actually heal through that. Couples can actually heal through that, but people don't believe that to be true. They believe if that's how it is, you should fucking leave. I mean, I don't think anybody should stay in an abusive relationship. I'm also saying though, that if we actually slowed down and figured out what it was, they can both be healed. So that's not their dynamic anymore. Right? So I don't believe that an abusive relationship is just bad. It's just horrible. I believe that good can come of it and there's also good in it. But I also, like I said, don't believe you should just stay. And then if that is the foundation and the dynamic of the relationship, of course you should go, right? Why are people so fast and so quick to be if this is dynamic, that's dynamic, if that's the dynamic, you should not be there. Because this is the way for it to be. So let's go to the dynamic of we never fight. We've never been in a fight. I have found 9 times out of 10, if the dynamic is we have never been in a fight, one or both of you avoids confrontation and one or both of you are not saying all the things that you need to say because either 1, you don't feel like it's going to matter anyways. 2, you don't want to cause issues to where that partner doesn't talk to you or you actually have to quote unquote fight through it. Or 3, you have said it in one way or another and it hasn't been validated and there's nothing's been done about it. So you either think nothing is going to be done about it, right? You're afraid of them leaving you or the conflict that it will cause, or you have brought it up in one way or another and nothing was done about it. Why do we wear a badge of honor that my partner and I have never been in a fight? I think we need to take a step back from that and go, we have actually never been in a fight. However, we have tools, we have ways. Like that's never what follows it up, by the way. We don't ever get it followed up with like, we have a rule where we this, and so that way we don't fight. We have a this, so that way we don't fight. We do a that, so that way we don't fight. That's not what happens. I've seen these dynamics lots and lots and lots of times. When I used to do peer romance, I saw it all the time. In my life coaching and speaking career, I've seen it a lot. This dynamic is because of shutdown at some level from both parties. Shutting down feelings, shutting down not wanting to get in a confrontation, shutting down not wanting to cause any disconnection or hurt feelings. And there's respect for that, right? Not wanting to cause disconnection and hurt feelings. But with all the avoidance of conflict and confrontation comes the avoidance of the most difficult conversations that need to be had in order for the growth of the relationship. Do I think that people need to fight in order to have a connected, close relationship? No. I think we need to be careful, though, when we say that we've never been in a fight, to evaluate our relationships and ask, but are we having the hard conversations? Are we coming together as a couple and in a partnership and in a unity to do this life together? Or because of the worry of the conflict and the disconnect, are we just avoiding those and we're each running things our own way and coming together in the middle of it and saying, fuck it, so that we don't have to fight about that, so we don't have to deal with that? We're just going to avoid it and then come together in the middle and run our life. We're just going to not bring it up anymore because it doesn't matter and come in the middle for our life. I'm sorry. I don't believe that is healthy. Just as I don't believe screaming and yelling at each other is healthy. Right? And when we talk about fight in this episode, we're talking about an argument, a fight of that, higher raised voices, potentially slammed doors, right? Like there's more anger there. There's definitely disconnection, right? That's what I mean by that, right? I don't think that that's necessary either. I just think that wearing that we've never been in a fight as a badge of honor has always been a red flag for me. And as I've dug deeper, it's literally avoidance. Avoidance is why there hasn't been a fight. If you avoid the hard conversations, the hard situations, those disconnection points that are happening, they're just going to grow more and more and more. There's resentment that festers there. There's like I've already said, a massive disconnection that is there. So instead of fighting or avoiding, it comes with healthy communication styles and the respect for where each other's coming from, for us to come to a common ground and decide what we're going to do as a unified couple, a unified front with this situation, with how I'm feeling or how you're feeling. And we're going to move forward from there as a unified front with that so that this situation doesn't keep coming up for us to avoid. We're going to hit it head on. Here's how we're going to hit it. And here's how we're going to do it together. So it doesn't feel like you're doing it on your own and I'm doing it on my own. And one of us or both of us just has to deal with it. And that's what is. I believe they've never been in a fight. That's how it goes. I'm going to do it my way. You're going to do it your way. And we're just going to deal with the fact that we don't agree. And I still love you anyways. So when you look at the, elevated arguments and fights with your partner, it's doing damage, just as much damage as the avoidance. Most people don't realize that. They'll say, oh, if you're screaming and yelling and, carrying on and slamming doors, it does more damage. It does more damage to you than it does the relationship of the other person. Avoidance and I don't even know what I want to talk. I don't know how I want to describe this, but over the top pissed offery, right? We'll go with that. They impact your relationship negatively alike. And dare I say, the avoidance is probably, let me process for one sec. The avoidance is doing more damage than the screaming and yelling. I'd be willing to die on the hill for that. And here's why. When you're screaming and yelling, you're getting it all out. And somebody would interrupt me right there and argue and say, yeah, but you're saying things that you don't mean. You're hurting feelings that, you shouldn't hurt. Like you're saying things you can never take back. Well, there's always truth to that. There's always truth to what you say. So yeah, you might be hurting feelings and you might be saying things you can never take back, but they're true inside of you at some level, not just because you're angry. People also say that, oh, you just, you say hurtful things when you're angry. Well, those hurtful things you feel when you're not angry too, they're just not at the forefront, so you're not saying them. Hey, are you loving this? To get even more soul fire, soul healing products, and to download the free gifts that I have for you, go to soulfirepodcast.com. Again, that's soulfirepodcast.com. I think it's fucking asinine for people to say that you say things you don't mean when you're angry. The fuck? You say exactly what you mean. You're just saying it in a fucked up way. You're still saying what you mean, though. You still feel that way. I never take anything back that I say in anger because it's still true. I may not like the way that I said it or the way that it came out. It's still true. So I'm not going to go back and take that back. Don't fucking say shit and then go take it back. Own it and work through that, whatever level and how that came out. So I think it gives more space to work through truths that are really being felt than avoidance. Oh, I'm just going to not say anything until I calm down. But how do you really feel? So when you calm down, you're going to come to the table, and are you going to really be honest? Or now are we in fucking smoke and mirrors the whole way, rainbows and butterflies the whole way, and I don't really know that you're fucking sick of this shit and you don't want to do this relationship anymore because you don't want to put up with it. And instead you come when you calm down and say, I really love you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. Like, wait, where's the fucking truth? Where's the work? Where's the connection? Again, I'm not saying we need to scream and yell at each other. I am saying that there needs to be fucking truth and honesty and sharing that. And if it comes out like shit, I'd rather it come out like shit than not come out at all. But we live in a world where people say, I'd rather not say it if it's going to come out like shit. And then you believe that you actually do say it, but you don't. And so then that other person never has the opportunity to grow into that relationship because they don't know the fucking truth. A very hot topic for me. I think avoidance is more destructive than saying things when you're angry. I will always vote on open, honest communication, even if it comes out a little fucked up, than shut down avoidant energy because we're upset right now, so we shouldn't talk. Not to be confused with, you know what? I'm really fucking pissed off right now, and I'm going to say some really fucked up things that are going to cut you down, and I don't want to treat you that way, so I need a second. That's not avoidant. That's being self-aware. So also understand that, yes, you can get to a point where you don't want to be destructive, so you can halt that conversation for 5 or 20 or 30 minutes, and then come back so you're not being destructive and verbally abusive because you feel hurt and defensive and want to attack back. That's not avoidance. That's being self-aware and protecting that relationship and the love that you have for a moment. Completely different than the avoidance of hard conversations because you want to avoid conflict or because you don't feel like it'll matter or because you said it in other ways to avoid the conflict, but nothing happened. Nothing changed. It stayed the same. I think this is very controversial topic and a definitely a perspective that a lot of people don't hear. I think we hear a lot more about turbulence and anger and all of those things being bad. And we hear a lot more of not talking and, taking time and walking away or quote unquote nowadays, so many people shut down. It's so much more of a defense mechanism and a way of processing that I'll never understand. Because I am a highly communicative person and I feel like shutting down impacts people so much worse in my mind. I mean, in my experience too. It's just like you have somebody on the other end wondering what's going on, wondering what they did, asking all these questions. You have the person who shut down like, oh, you're going to find out when I feel like it. You're going to find out when I want to talk about it. You're going to find out when I'm ready to bring it up. Well, Obviously, you're fucking ready because you shut down. Obviously, something happened because you shut down. And now I've got to wait for your timeline, whatever the fuck that is, in a day, a week, 3 weeks, depending. And then you're going to tell me? I don't know. For me, it's doing so much destroying during that time. And there is this fine line between taking time to reset, which I don't call that shutting down. Taking time to reset is not the same as shutting down. There's a fine line between taking that time to reset and just, spewing everything out. But that doesn't mean avoidance, and that doesn't mean shutting down for a prolonged amount of time where everybody around you is just like, what do we do? What's going on? What happened? Like, that isn't fair to the people around you. I'd rather you just go ahead and say what you need to say and hurt my feelings, if that's what it's going to take. Or I'd rather stay up all night, not seeing eye to eye, and maybe even going around in circles until somebody says something where it hits the other one upside the head, and that's their epiphany, and now we're going to get somewhere, than days or weeks of avoidance. Yes, I get that that's opinion, right? And that's perspective. But in my experience and what I've witnessed, it causes so much turmoil in souls. It causes so much disconnection in relationships. It causes resentment in areas of the relationship that people don't even realize. And I think that, the screaming and yelling and the slamming of the doors, it does all of those things at the, as well. It's just at a different level to me. I think it's lesser. It's a lesser level. But it doesn't make it right. So let me be clear. I think avoidance is not the way to go. Ever. Ever. I think screaming and yelling and being out of control of yourself is not the way to go. Ever. I do believe the communication always needs to be had. If you need a break to reset, take that break. But you come right back and let's do this. Let's get to our understanding and connection point. Let's get to a completeness with this topic and what's going on and how we're feeling. Because I love you and I want that for us. Let's deepen this bond and this love so that we can continue growing together. And to me, that only happens in communication. It doesn't happen in the silence. It only happens in being open and honest and having the hard conversation. It doesn't happen in avoiding conflict. It just doesn't. So if at the beginning of this episode, it sounded like I was fighting the arguments, the slamming the door, and that sort of destruction, I'm not. And I'm also not fighting for avoidance and shutting down. I'm not. Those are both opposite ends of the spectrum that are horrible for relationships. What I'm talking about is being self-aware and being open and honest and sharing and having the hard conversations while also managing your own emotions and paying attention. And when you find that you cannot manage your emotions and they're getting out of control or they're starting to elevate, I would say, then this is moments like, you know what? Hold on. We're not getting anywhere with this. And I am just getting more and more pissed off. So I want to end this conversation so I can reset and then we can come back and visit it. But right now, I don't want to fucking talk about this anymore. And that's usually how I end it. This is how I've stopped myself from the elevation and the yelling and the, slamming the doors and the degradation and the demeaningness and the belittling. And, that's how I've stopped myself from doing all of that, is ending the conversation in its fucking tracks. And then I'll go, usually I don't say, okay, now I'm ready to talk. When I'm ready to talk again, which is usually within 15 or 20 minutes, I will just start in from a different perspective. And usually that conversation goes so much better because I am the elevator in the conversations with Daniel. I'm the one that gets more and more pissed off, the one that gets more and more upset, and the one that starts yelling, right? So I take complete ownership of that, which means it's my job to learn how to manage my emotions. It's my job to learn how to come from the space of peace, love, and protection. It's my job to learn when to stop the conversation so that I can reset. It's my job to learn what it's going to take for me to feel complete. Like, what do I want out of this conversation? What is the goal of this conversation so that when I walk away, I feel complete from this? What's my goal? Because if my goal is to be right, if my goal is to get you to agree, and if my goal is to make you feel like shit because that's how I feel, this conversation isn't going to get anywhere. So I've got to end it until I can come into this conversation like an adult. And like I said, from peace, love, and protection, safe space, understanding, connection. If I can't come from that, we're not talking. But I get to that place really fast because I'd rather communicate sooner than later so we can get to a place of completeness, use this as a growth point, and move forward with each other. So please understand that, yes, I came in way fucking hot at the beginning of this episode, and I still feel extremely strong about it. I will take fighting, screaming, yelling, slamming doors over avoidance any day. Any fucking day, because at the end of the day, we know exactly how each other feels. We know what's on each other's mind. We know what's on each other's heart, and we know what the problems are. They're out on the fucking table. In avoidance, everybody's running around going, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What did I do? How can I fix it? Are you okay? No. That doesn't do anybody any good. So there's my 2 cents on that. That's where I'm coming from with that. And so we need to normalize having hard conversations. We need to normalize the fact that, yeah, we get in disagreements. We don't see eye to eye, but we work through it and we get to a point of completeness so that we can grow through that. Like, we need to normalize that not being on the same page and being disconnected, and that there is conflict and disruptions in relationships is okay. I am so fucking sick of people wearing avoidance like a badge of honor, but that's not how they say it, right? It's just said as in, we never fight. I mean, sometimes we get upset with each other or get frustrated with each other, but we never fight. Why is fighting bad? Because I find the people that don't fight avoid. They avoid conflict. They avoid opening up. They avoid sharing. Generally, they're just getting through it on their own and then telling their partner what was going on. What the fuck? They didn't even get the opportunity to be there for you. They didn't even get the opportunity to be a part of that with you and to grow through that with you, or to help you through that, or for you to come both get on the same page and come up with a plan for that in order to move forward. They didn't get to do any of that because you robbed them of that opportunity. So I will reiterate that I think that avoidance is wrong, and, high level pissed offery is wrong. I think avoidance does more damage than high level pissed offery. And when I say high level pissed offery, we're not talking about abuse. We're not talking about throwing things and breaking things. Like, all those are just not good and highly destructive, right? I will always vote that avoidance is worse than high level pissed offery, because in avoidance, you're not communicating. And in high level pissed offery, you still are, even though it's not coming out the best way, there's still a level of truth to all of it, right? Let's normalize hard conversations. Let's normalize conflicts. Let's normalize that we don't always see eye to eye. And let's normalize that the reason why we are together and the reason why we're so strong is because we're willing to hit those things head on, become a team, and work through them. We're willing to hit those things head on and allow them to be growth points in our relationship. Let's normalize those conversations, because if we don't, we are creating a world of children that think that conflict creates disasters in relationships. And without conflict, there is no growth. You've got to have conflict for growth. Kids who say, I've never seen my parents in a fight, in an argument, a disagreement, nothing. Horrible for those children, because they think that every relationship, there's no conflict. There's no disagreement. There's no issue. And that's not true. You have two fucking humans who are entering into something. Even in the most cosmic soulmate matches, there's still going to be disruptions. There's still going to be levels of conflict. There's still going to be spaces of not seeing eye to eye. Yes, maybe the way they handle that is more peaceful, more gentle, more connected, more loving. I understand that. But we so put down and beat up the whole open, honest, out loud communication. and we so praise the fact that it's, no fights and we've never seen it and my parents never, and then all of a sudden their parents get a divorce and fucking destroys the child. Like, what the fuck happened? I thought you guys were so perfect. I've never seen, like, pay attention. Conflict is not bad. We need conflict to grow. That's what I'm saying. So I'm off my fucking soapbox. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of, opposite sides of this, but I want you to see that I have talked about both sides fully from my heart and from, factualness on both sides of it. And I definitely come from the side of, like I said, elevated pissed offery. That's my personality. So I'd love to fight for that to the death and say that's the way that it goes, but that's fucking horrible too. Elevated pissed offery is just as horrible as avoidance. I just think that elevated pissed offery, you're getting more communication out, so you have more of an opportunity to grow through those things. And with avoidant, there's next to no communication. Even if the communication comes back on the table after the person stops avoiding, it's still not as open and honest and like really soul deep as it would have been if it would have just came out when it happened. Because now that person's processed through it all. Now it's spitting out a different way. And now we're not doing any conflict resolution. You did all that conflict resolution inside yourself and then brought the resolution to the table of the relationship and said, okay, here's where I'm at. Here's what's going on. Here's what I was feeling. I'm not feeling that way anymore. I've worked through it. Here is what I did, or here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I just, like, you gave no space for that other person. Where did they get to come in? Maybe they now come in and apologize. Maybe they now come in and say, oh, I didn't realize you felt that way. Or maybe they now come in and say, thank you for sharing. But now what? Where is the depth of that bond? That's what I'm saying. So take what you like, leave what you don't. And remember this sacred truth. Say yes to yourself, for within you lies infinite worth. Let your heart be your compass, guiding you on a path of self-discovery and liberation. Grant yourself the grace to stumble and rise, for it is in our imperfections that we find our strength. Embrace the dance of progress, where each step forward fuels the fire within you. And with massive power and deep soul conviction, let this be your anthem, your unwavering declaration. I choose me. I'm Power Coach Alicia, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Soul Fire podcast. You being here means the world to me, and I'm grateful for the time that you've dedicated to be here. And by consistently showing up, I firmly believe that you will transform your life. I'm so grateful that you've subscribed and you continue to share with others, spreading my message far and wide, because together we can reach my mission of transforming the lives of 1 million souls on their healing journey. Now, to provide you even more support on your soul healing journey and address any questions you may have, I would like to invite you to join our soul healing community. Simply visit community.thesoulhealingzone.com. Again, that's community.thesoulhealingzone.com, where you can connect with like-minded women, share your top takeaways, discuss what resonated with your soul, and express your absolute favorite moments from this episode. I can't wait to read them. I'm so freaking excited to create more empowering episodes and continue supporting you. I am sending you so much love, light, and peace as we journey through this thing called life.